Have you ever felt like you're being measured against someone who's not even in the room? That gnawing sensation that no matter what you do, you're being silently held up to a standard you never agreed to? These comparisons, whether subtle or overt, can poison relationships and chip away at your sense of self. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on 10 hidden signs someone is secretly comparing you to someone else. These aren't just behaviors, they're truths that force you to confront your own boundaries and expectations if you're ready to expose the root causes of these behaviors and how to break free. Let's get started. 1. They keep bringing up what's so and so did. Sarah's kids are already reading at 2 years old. Or, did you hear Mike just bought another property? These aren't casual updates. They're comparisons wrapped in pleasantries. Every time they bring up someone else's achievements, what they're really saying is, why can't you do that? This behavior isn't harmless. It's rooted in a need to provoke inadequacy, even if unintentionally. Studies show that humans naturally compare, but when someone uses other success as a measuring stick against you, it's damaging. This isn't about admiration for Sarah or Mike. It's about their dissatisfaction with you. The ripple effects are clear. These comments, though seemingly small, erode your confidence over time. You start doubting your path, wondering if you're falling short by their standards. But here's the hard truth. You can't control their comparisons, but you can refuse to be a part of them. Call out calmly, but directly. Why does this keep coming up? You'll know instantly if they're willing to address the issue or if their default setting is to deflect. Either way, their reaction will tell you everything. Point 2. Their criticism feels oddly specific, that we all make mistakes. But if their feedback consistently points to how you're not measuring up to some invisible perfect standard, it's not constructive criticism. It's a symptom of comparison. For example, this doesn't taste like my mom's cooking, or you're not as spontaneous as my ex, aren't just critiques. They're cuts designed to remind you of who you're not. This behavior reflects a distorted mindset. Instead of appreciating what you bring to the table, they're projecting what they wish you were. And let's be clear, this isn't about you lacking. It's about their inability to see you for who you are. They've built a mental shrine to someone else, be it an ex, a friend, or a relative, and now you're expected to worship at it too. You need to set boundaries. Say it plainly. I hear your feedback, but I'm not interested in being compared to someone else. Let's talk about what works for us. If they can't have that conversation, it's a sign they're more attached to their fantasy than to reality. And let's face it, fantasies don't make for fulfilling partnerships. Point 3. They're obsessed with changing you. Oh, they always suggest tweaks. Your hairstyle, your habits, your hobbies. Comments like, you'd look better if you dress like Lisa, or why don't you join a gym like my friend's partner, are not about helping you improve. These are thinly veiled attempts to morph you into someone you're not. This behavior reveals a deeper issue. They're not in love with you. They're in love with an idealized version of someone else. Trying to change you isn't about bettering the relationship. It's about their dissatisfaction with themselves projected onto you. And here's the kicker. Even if you meet one of their demands, there will always be another. Relationships built on shifting expectations collapse under the weight of unmet fantasy. Stop accommodating their insecurities. Make it clear, I'm not interested in being someone else. If who I am doesn't work for you, we need to rethink this. It's a tough conversation, but one that separates those who truly value you from those who don't. And if they don't, they're lost. Point 4. They downplay your successes, that you've worked hard, achieved something you're proud of, and instead of support, you hear, that's nice, but didn't Jenna do it faster? Let's be honest, this isn't about Jenna's achievements. It's about their inability to celebrate yours. People who downplay your wins are often wrestling with their own insecurities. It's easier for them to compare you to someone else than to acknowledge their feelings of inadequacy. But here's the twist. Letting their insecurities dictate the narrative of your accomplishments gives them power they don't deserve. Don't minimize your achievements to make them comfortable. Say, I'm proud of what I've done, and I'd appreciate your support. If they continue to deflect or dismiss, that's their problem, not yours. Remember, the right people will celebrate your wins without caveats or conditions. 5. Their compliments have a backhand. You're good at what you do, but wouldn't it be great if you were more like Sarah? Or, You look nice today, much better than last week. These aren't compliments. They're traps designed to erode your confidence while disguising their real intent to point out your supposed shortcomings. This behavior stems from insecurity and control. By undermining you subtly, they maintain an illusion of superiority. It's manipulative, and it works if you let it. These comments force you to second-guess yourself, planting seeds of doubt where there were none before that don't play along. Say, that's not helpful. If you have something constructive to say it directly. This forces them to either clarify their intentions or face their passive aggression head-on. It's a small step, but one that shifts the power dynamic back to where it belongs. Point 6. They seem more interested in what others think. When they care more about appearances than the relationship itself, it's a clear sign you're being compared. Statements like, "What will people think if we don't do this?" aren't about what's best for you as a couple. They're about managing perceptions. This external focus reflects an unstable sense of self. Instead of building intimacy, they're outsourcing their validation. Every decision becomes a performance. Every interaction a calculation. If you're constantly asked to perform for others' approval, it's time to ask, is this about us or about keeping up appearances? Relationships thrive when they're built on connection, not comparisons. And here's the unfiltered truth. If they're more invested in how things look than how things feel, they're not truly invested in you. Point 7. They're constantly comparing themselves to others. When someone is obsessed with measuring their life against others, it's inevitable that you'll get caught in the crossfire. Comments like, "Why can't I have what they have?" or "I wish I were more like them," are warning signs. This behavior doesn't stay contained, it spills over into how they view you. Comparison is a losing game. Studies have shown it leads to dissatisfaction, jealousy, and strained relationships. The more they compare, the less content they'll be with what's right in front of them. And that includes you. You can encourage them to focus inward, but if they refuse, you need to protect your own peace. Walk away if necessary. Your worth isn't up for debate. Their fixation on others is their problem to solve, not yours to endure. Point 8. Their expectations seem impossible. Are you being held to standards no one could meet? Statements like, "I wish you were more ambitious," or "Why can't you be more like my ex?" aren't just unfair, they're dehumanizing. These expectations aren't about you. They're about fulfilling their fantasies. Let me tell you the truth. Relationships are partnerships, not projects. If someone sees you as a problem to fix rather than a personal love, they've already failed the relationship. You deserve someone who values you for who you are, not for how well you match their checklist. Set the boundary. I'm not here to live up to someone else's ideal. Take me as I am, or let me go. Anything less isn't love, it's control. Point 9. They're emotionally distant that if they've started pulling away, it might be because they're struggling with comparison. Whether they're conflicted or disappointed, emotional distance is often a sign of unresolved tension. The problem, it leaves you in the dark, questioning what went wrong. When someone withdraws, it's easy to internalize the blame. Don't. Instead, address it directly. "I feel like there's distance between us. Can we talk about what's going on?" This approach forces clarity and keeps the conversation grounded in mutual respect. Their willingness to engage will reveal whether the distance is a temporary lapse or a deeper issue. Point 10. They're overly defensive when confronted they shut down or lash out. Defensiveness is a clear indicator they're aware of their behavior, but unwilling to own it. Statements like, "You're making a big deal out of nothing," or "Why are you so sensitive?" aren't just dismissive, they're deflections. Defensiveness comes from fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being wrong, fear of vulnerability. But relationships don't thrive in the shadows of avoidance. Stay firm. "I'm sharing how I feel because it matters. If we can't talk about this, it's going to create more problems." You're not responsible for their defensiveness, but you're responsible for standing up for your needs. If someone is comparing you to others, it's less about you and more about their inability to accept reality. Relationships built on comparison crumble. Your worth isn't defined by their dissatisfaction, and your value doesn't depend on meeting their impossible standards. Recognize the signs, set boundaries, and demand better. If they can't see your value, it's their loss, not yours. Remember, You're not here to audition for someone else's approval.